Good evening. It is now 7 o'clock p.m. This is Monday, August 14th, 2023. I now call the meeting to order of the Aransas Pass Independent School District Board of Trustees. We are seated with a quorum. This evening, Mr. Molinax will lead us in the pledges of allegiance and Mr. Rector in our invocation. Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Let us pray. Lord, we thank you for your divine blessings upon us as we give you glory and honor. We come praying for our staff that you will give them strength and endurance as they begin this school year. We pray that the students will be receptive to all the materials they have to learn from. Let us all continue to trust in God and put him first in our lives. Now we pray and ask your blessings upon this meeting as we begin this evening. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Molinax and Mr. Rector. We're now at the point of public testimony. And we have none for this evening from members of the public. But we do have someone here in attendance this evening from the public that we would like to recognize. If Cheryl Stansberry will please join us in the front. Although Mrs. Stansberry is now a member of our public in our community, she has been a dedicated member of the Aransas Pass Independent School District and has retired. And so the Board of Trustees just wanted to give you a token of our great appreciation for you. And I'll read this. So this is a board service and retirement award presented in appreciation to Cheryl Stansberry for 35 dedicated years to the Aransas Pass Independent School District, including 24 years seated here, board meeting after board meeting, workshop after workshop, in service to our Board of Trustees as the Director of Business and Finance. Congratulations, we wish you well in your retirement.
Let's stand, give a round of applause. Let's stand. 35 years is a long time. We appreciate you.
Cheryl.
And now we will continue with our agenda. Next item is Resilient Schools Support Program, the RSSP, cross-initiative stakeholder presentation tonight. And Mr. Bennett, who will we have lead us out on this one?
We will have Sonia Saltani from Ed Direction, I believe, is joining us on the Zoom now.
Welcome. Good evening. Good evening. Can you hear us, Sonia? If you can hear us, we apologize at having some audio difficulty right now.
Hello. I'm going to turn you around.
Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you
Oh,
hear me?
wonderful. Yes. Good evening and welcome. We're glad you could join us.
Oh, you're so yeah, thank you. Great. Hello, everyone. Nice to be in community with you. Thank you for taking some time with me on our busy agenda. I just am up right now if my agenda item that's on the docket. Is that right?
Yes. Yes. You're on for the presentation on the RSSP.
Correct. Wonderful. And
Okay.
can you all see the screen that I'm sharing?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, hello, good afternoon. My name is Sonia Sultani. I'm an improvement specialist with EdDirection MGT. Many of you are probably familiar with EdDirection and the great work we've been doing in partnership with Aransas Pass ISD. If not, this is going to be the presentation for you. I'm going to share a little bit about the Resilient School Support Program, but specifically today is all about sharing APISD's strategic plan for school year 2020-2024. I'll walk you through the process that we took to create this strategic plan, some of the inputs and outputs that we're looking for along the way this school year, and what our wildly some of this information is going to get a little bit technical, might just graze through some of the pieces that are less you, but just know that from start to finish, this has been a truly collaborative process with RSSP cabinet members participating 2 times a month in bi-monthly meetings and creating a strategic plan. So let me walk you through it. Our strategic plan today is really a chance for us to take a look at a long-term roadmap for Aransas Pass. We're going to take a look at the APISD vision, mission, goals, objectives, overall priorities that are in alignment with our year. This plan is going to also include a summary of elections, measurement, and implementation plans. I'm going to skip over those pieces, but just inside of this presentation, after this presentation, it's very important to go back into this slide deck and go through some of the nitty-gritty details. I'll also leave some time at the end of the presentation if you have any questions. So quickly, a recap of last school year. So this part of our strategic plan basically takes a look at the past year of systematic support. So what has our approach been through RSSP, and how have we been intentional in collecting and analyzing data from a variety of stakeholders? We take that data, we identify trends, and that's how we then decide what the goals, priorities, and supports are for the next year. A little summary of our RSSP process. So we started by setting up a team. Right now, the Aransas Pass ISD cabinet is comprised of myself, my colleague Alyssa Murray, Shelly Dominguez, and we also now have 2 representatives, one from each focus school that we're working with. That would be Miss Rihanna Picarazzi from Charlie Marshall Elementary School and Miss Elizabeth Ward from AC Blunt Middle School. So we set up our team. We determined what route we want to take as a group, right? What is going to be the highest leverage strategy to impact student achievement outcomes this year? And we chose research-based instructional strategies as the highest leverage strategy for us to utilize. From there, we created a goals and measurement plan, continuously analyzed data, and made sure that all of our takeaways and our actions are very strictly aligned to our RSSP vision and goals. Okay, so some data analysis key findings. 3 things. Number 1, Aransas Pass continues to provide excellent academic opportunities for its community, particularly in reading, which is why in this last school year and in this upcoming school year, we're spending a majority of our time, our effort, and our actions in the math category. Our stakeholder survey data that we collected from teachers and other stakeholders in Aransas Pass basically highlighted all of the great things happening at Aransas Pass ISD, once again, especially in ELAR or English Language Arts and Reading. So we're moving our focus to mathematics, and we're zooming into 3rd and 4th grade and then 6th to 8th grade students. Because looking at the data from the last school year, especially that preliminary STAR data that was released, 3rd to 4th and 6th to 8th grade students were the ones that needed the most support. So that's upcoming for this year, where our focus area is going to be. is actually going to be utilizing your Fundamental 5 and Panther Pathway strategies as evidence-based instructional strategies. We're also leveraging high quality instructional materials. So we led a internalization protocol professional development session for Eureka Math for the elementary at Charlie Marshall and Carnegie Math for AC Blunt Middle School. We're going to continuously help step in to PLCs and facilitate those internalization protocols. We're also helping teachers understand where the balance of conceptual and procedural understanding is in both of those high quality instructional materials. Moving ahead, remember that right now we are just talking about this last school year. So we're taking a look at where have we been and where are we going. Last school year, you can see our vision and area of action listed here on this slide. We primarily focused our energy on the Panther Pathways and Fundamental 5. As I mentioned, this year we're making a bit of a shift and incorporating high quality instructional materials into that. Our wildly important goal from last year is listed here. We're looking at 85% of K to second grade students scoring meets or higher on the end of year Eureka assessments. We quickly realized we didn't quite have enough data to assess the progress towards this goal. So instead, we leaned more heavily on the first wildly important goal listed here. The percentage of 3rd to 8th grade students that score meets grade level or above on STAR Math will increase from 26% last year to 35% this year. I know, and as you all know, STAR results were just recently released, and so we're really excited and eager to take a look at those scores and see how we fared, especially with our wildly important goal from last RSSP year. As a note, and a little extra framing here, this is the last year of the Resilient School Support Program. So that program is going to sunset. The state of Texas, the Texas Education Agency is no longer funneling grant monies through this program. So this last year, we're really hoping that the strategies that we are selecting are going to lead to the outcomes that we're hoping for here. And I'm going to show you what our school year goals are this upcoming year. Okay, so these next couple of slides just give you a little bit of a summary of our capacity, fidelity, and wildly important goals and how we fared in the last school year. Once again, this is already done and passed, so I'm going to move ahead to the piece that shares our strategic plan for this year. But just know that if you would like to go back in here and take a look at the outcomes from last year's RSSP work, it is here for you to view. Last year, we chose, as I mentioned, evidence-based instructional strategies through the Fundamental 5 and Panther Pathways. We also invested a lot of our time and energy in focused principal development and coaching. So I was leading and engaging in leadership coaching on a monthly basis with school principals and assistant principals as well. A lot of those conversations did center around Carnegie and Eureka Math implementation in the classroom. We visited both of the campuses quite often and observed for Carnegie and Eureka in action, took away some trends that we were able to address in this year's implementation plan. All right, so let's move into this year's implementation plan, all built off of stakeholder input. And excuse me, I'm just going to go straight through this next part. Okay. So moving from RSSP year 3 to RSSP year 4 meant that we had to make a decision about where we were going to focus our efforts. Once again, we chose H2IM in math, and we're going to continue our good work in evidence-based instructional strategies. Also really excited to share with you that Aransas Pass ISD has been accepted into the Effective Schools Framework, or the ESF grant opportunity. And so we're also going to be working with you all in that capacity as well this year. So we had a few different routes to choose from. We chose route 1, which is using the same strategy and same content area. We just got really specific about what our focus grades were and what our focus strategies were. In the past, we kind of focused on all 4 schools: Charlie Marshall, HD Falk, AC Blunt, and Aransas Pass High School. This year, it's just those 2 schools, as I mentioned. So we're hoping to see really great student outcomes when we have a more narrow focus. Our student subgroup that we're also focusing on this year is economically disadvantaged. It's my understanding that somewhere around 75% of your school district is qualified as economically disadvantaged. And so we have a specific student outcomes goal that's set aside, and we're going to be constantly monitoring student data outcomes for this subgroup as well. Our wildly important goal for this year says by the end of 2023, 2024, 40% of third to fourth and sixth to eighth grade students will score meets or above on Eureka and Carnegie end of module assessments. And we made a separate goal for ECODIS students, economically disadvantaged students, being at 35% meets and masters on those end of module assessments. So a quick look at our vision and our theory of action for this year. All of it is built on the foundation of your Panther pathway, right? Your standard of excellence and your district pillars and goals. Your vision is your district vision. The theory of action was created so that we can have a narrow focus on those pillars that are going to best move our outcomes, our inputs, and our outputs along. So what are our inputs and our outputs? We created this measurement plan. This is just for cycle one. If you don't know, RSSP is cut into two cycles. Cycle one goes from about June 2023 to December 2023. Cycle two of the program will run from January to June once again. So we just created a measurement plan for the very first half of the year. But our wildly important goal is annual. It stays the same all year long. As you'll see listed on this slide here, we have student outcomes, our prioritized student group, which is economically disadvantaged, our capacity and fidelity goals. And these are the things that, these are basically the what and the how of our work this year. How are we going to build capacity or support teachers and school leaders in building their knowledge, skills, and mindsets? And then how are we gonna consistently take a look at any evidence that those practices are improving over time? Well, we decided that one way to do that is to be present during PLCs and to also survey teachers at the end of each PLC cycle and say, hey, have these PLCs been supporting and strengthening your instructional practices? Another thing we're going to be doing is walking through classrooms and helping teachers to sharpen their skills in frame the lesson and frequent small group purposeful talk out of your fundamental 5 strategies. So among other things, those are a couple of the priorities that we have this year. For the first half of the year, the actions that we're going to be taking in the service of our goals. All of this is linked in the Aransas Pass ISD implementation plan. It's linked here inside of this slide in this deck. And so what you can do after this meeting is you're welcome to go into this implementation plan and you'll see a month-by-month breakdown of key actions and aligned initiatives that are going to be taken by Ed Direction, by the full RSSP cabinet, and by Aransas Pass stakeholders. So we're going to be following this implementation plan from now until the end of the year, but we'll constantly iterate on this process, look at data and say, if the data is not showing an improvement in student outcomes, then we need to change our actions. We need to do something a little bit different to support teachers and students with that learning. Okay, so with that, I know I had a very brief stint on your agenda. I think we have just a couple minutes left for any questions. What questions do you have for me?
Questions?
Yo,
Hold on, just I'm not unmuted.
Can we get a copy of those slides that you presented, because they were kind of hard to see on the board up here? So, you know, if you could send one to Mr. Bennett or something, they can forward it to us, because we were having a hard time reading those slides up there because it was kind of small. But if you can forward it to us on email it to us, and they can forward it to us.
Absolutely. Yep, I can send them over to you. In fact, I'll send them to Kelly Mickens, the director of curriculum, and hopefully she'll be able to pass that along to you.
Thank you.
We appreciate this overview tonight.
Any other questions?
Yes.
Or
There may be a lag or delay in our audio. When will this link be available on the website?
can you repeat the question, please?
Oh, yes. When will the link be available on the website regarding the APISD implementation plan that will begin to show the month-by-month breakdowns?
Oh yeah, that's actually live right now. So if you have the link, you would be able to go and look at it. What I'll do is I'll send this deck to Shelly. Just know that Shelly also has access to that implementation plan. Every school leader, in fact, across all four of the focus schools, regularly access this implementation plan. If you were to go into the link, you'll see a little tab for each of the schools, and we've asked them to backwards plan their year based off of their school site goals. So most school leaders have this book somewhere, but I'll have Shelby send it out to this meeting.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. Any other questions, free to send me an email directly. I'll drop it in the chat here. And I want to once again get this task complete.
Thanks again for providing the overview, and we look forward to hearing more from you and the team and our curriculum and campus leaders. Thank you. Have a good evening.
You're so welcome. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Trustees, before we move on, are there any comments or questions for staff on this item? If not, then we will move on to the next item, which is Technology Device Replacement Plan presentation by our Director of Technology. And again, trustees, there are some informational items here for this presentation in your board book.
All right, so, what we've got here is, in the board book, you've got, full-on what I wrote up, along with some, hard data with, numbers attached and everything that goes with it too, so, mainly, you know, we can go over this, I can read this verbatim, or we can go right into some questions that you guys wanna have all about this one. Now, mainly what it means is your life cycle for a business level device is about 5 years. That's talking about CPUs, laptops, projectors, you know, they get a little bit more time out of a projector, document cameras, that kind of stuff. The stuff that we're looking at here is the instructional piece, the piece that's actually affecting in the classroom with the kids and the students together. So what we're looking at doing is putting together a 20% per year replacement refresh program for this. How's that? I know we're gonna have questions that come along with this. So, I mean, but I put a whole bunch of stuff in there about what we've done in the past, what was started with the ESSER program, and what we're doing, you know, now, the data processing side of it, did some cost outlay with you, and what we do with our surplus equipment, that when you come into a replacement, some of the equipment is still pretty good, so we rob from the good stuff, or the stuff that we're taking out and put it into some of the good stuff to make stuff last a little bit longer, until it's just time to get rid of it, and it goes to a recycle company that gives us a certification that the data has been destroyed, as well as, you know, they take the pieces and do whatever it is they're gonna resell with.
I got a question for you. Yeah, you're talking about every year we're gonna replace so many.
Right.
But we had that big bulk when we bought them all the first time out. So if we started that, are we just gonna take what we can to replace those and just kind of put it in a yearly cycle every year to do?
So-
Because it's gonna be a big bulk right off the start.
Right, and we're talking, that piece right there, we're talking about the student Chromebooks that we bought. I think it was like 300 and something thousand, and it was the year before ESSER began with there, and I don't remember which fund, I thought it was fund balance we brought it out of, but we bought 1,500 Chromebooks, Chromebook licenses, and covers that goes with that. And we've had some Chromebooks before that as well too, but yes, that's part of that piece. I mean, we look at it, we've got 1,600 kids now. We have enough for every kid to take one home right now, to go with that. But if you don't have a plan that comes with it, even when the kids take them home, I mean, it's rough on those devices as well too. So, I mean, we got repairs that we do in-house, and, you know, you get 1,500 divided by 20%, so you're looking at 300 devices a year.
Inside the replacement plan documentation, when you did the price breakdown, you notated that you adjusted the numbers to get that cost down a little bit every year, for the present year, I should say. So what exactly did we reduce to come up with this lower cost?
Okay, so, with the ESSER plan, when we first started this ESSER plan with, in the beginning, they brought me in and said, hey, what do you need to get this, started with? I gave them a couple ideas that go with it. And, in the first year, we gave every teacher, a laptop and a docking station. We're moving towards having teacher mobility in the classroom, not so stuck to a desktop in the corners. So, you know, plus when a teacher gets in a classroom, they're like, we want to move our stuff over here, or we want to move our stuff over here, and a laptop allows them to be set up in their room wherever they want. So we did 100% on that, so we did 122 units on that one. And that started like 0 day for laptops for teachers.
Okay.
Everything else, we have a Mac lab, so 5 per year, that's up to about 25. And then the Chromebooks, 300. But yeah, so we started with that. Then we had year 2, we've got that going down. We don't need 122 laptops. So we just do 20% of that. We get those numbers for each one in year 2. Year 3, there wasn't any money in the ESSER left for whatever we had planned to do. And so that's where we're at. We're at the beginning of year 3, and we don't have the money or the funds in there right now to do it.
Okay. And with this current plan, I remember from our last meeting, where you did a presentation, we talked about how you guys were self-repairing as many of those as you could to, you know, compensate with the budget that you currently had. Is that still the plan?
That's still the plan right now. When we looked at doing there's businesses out there that, you know, the parents could pay $20 a year and have this, or we could pay $16,000 for a year for about 800 devices, Chromebook devices, and they get broken, we send it to them, they send it back. The last 2 years, we've been right at about $5,100, $5,200 a year in fixing Chromebooks. I've got a nice little list of everything that's gone wrong with them, and the repairs that we have done, you know, plus our time. That gets into it. So, but that's about what it is on the repairs on that. The big thing with the Chromebooks is, especially with online testing as well now, is the auto update on the OS, on the operating system. So some of those Chromebooks are only, you can buy it, and the Chromebook may outlive its auto update feature, which is what keeps the OS secure for secure testing. So it'll still work, it just may not pass the security pieces on that piece, which is another reason why you need to have a replacement plan that goes with that.
And you said we had 1,500 Chromebooks?
We have more than that.
Okay.
When we had the hurricane, and then right after that we had the COVID, the biggest problem we had was getting units of Chromebooks. So we took every single laptop that we had available to us, about 500 of them, and wiped them and put our Chrome OS onto it. So we turned our own devices, Windows devices, into Chromebooks. And those were the ones that we issued out to the parents in the beginning of that time.
Okay. So the chart in here says, just so I can make sure I'm understanding the chart versus the numbers that you're telling me. So on the chart, it says Chromebooks with CML, total units 300.
Correct.
And what else are we adding to count up to that 1,500?
To count to okay, so Chromebooks, that's a 20%. So 20% of,
This is just for the replacement
this
budget.
is just for replacement.
Perfect,
Not
perfect.
Not inventory numbers.
Perfect. Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure that
Yeah,
I was,
no, don't worry.
I was making sure I was reading it right.
Yeah, any
Okay.
numbers you see in here is a 20% with the exception of that modified year.
Okay.
That modified year was when I was asked, hey man, can you just get this to a bare minimum of what you need for this next year? And this would be it right here. We had some extra stock and some other things that were going with this. Sometimes they last a little bit longer or not. And you know, we've done pretty good with it. Moving the Chromebooks down to a 10% replacement instead of a 20% that goes with it, just to get us going.
Okay.
Since we have the staff and talent to do some of the maintenance and repair and upkeep in-house, I know one of the concerns at our last presentation was the, I guess, the backlog on parts and components. And so can you just share with us, has there been any improvement on that so that you're able to continue doing this?
Yeah, it's gotten a whole lot better. Sometimes it takes about a month for some of these parts to come in, where they have to go through and find them and get them shipped to us. But it's not the shipping issue now. It's mainly just they're still trying to catch up and keep up with the demand on the parts.
Okay.
As the Chromebooks get older as well too, or any device gets older, they become obsolete, and they don't even make the parts for them anymore, or they won't even work with it. So I mean, that's another reason to have a refresh, recycle plan going forward.
Any other board comments or questions? Any final comments, staff? Good. Well, thank you. We appreciate the update.
You got it.
Thank you.
Our next item is school bus and AC unit and tilt wall replacement and repair plan. Presentation by our Director of Maintenance and Transportation.
So as we know, we have 170 RTUs on the district. Over 70 of those units are over 25 years old. That's bad. So me and Ms. Chapa got together. We're looking to replace at least 2 to 3 units, depending on the size of those units, per school year. Hey, Ms. Chapa, am I correct on that?
Yes.
Any questions on the ACs? And we're gonna replace from oldest to most critical.
I have a quick question. On that one, I know the plan is in development. Do you have a kind of a timeline on when you think that you'll be ready to share the plan?
So, Ms. Chapa.
No pressure.
He still needs to go up there and look at the year of all the models of those ACs. He just went on an overhead to look at, he went to go count the number of units. He needs to go take the year of every single model of the air conditioned units. Then we'll do a plan, but primarily are the ones that are down right now that we're going to be replacing. For short term, look at the ones that are down. We do have some that are. So as soon as September 1st, when the budget kicks in, we'll start doing those replacements.
And some of those units are calling for coils. So what I'm doing with the coils is we're pulling the coils out and we're putting coatings on those coils. That way it's a longer lifespan. The salt water up here, I'm not used to that. It's eating the coils up really bad. So we're just gonna coat those and it'll last about 5 to 10 years longer than units, that are just put up on the roof.
Right.
And Mr. Diven he and his crew have been performing more ongoing maintenance on the units we have that will keep them running for a while. But without a doubt, we need to get this going, so that's the plan.
Yeah, we're doing monthly maintenance on every unit, that's on the roof. We're washing the cools every month. We're actually replacing the filters twice a month. That way I can get I'm trying to catch up with previous years. But I mean, we're keeping them on. We do have a few that are down that we're freaking out about, Ms. Jerome. We're making it we'll make it happen.
Do all the campuses on district have ones that need to be replaced on each campus, or just certain campuses?
There's just certain, so as you know, Falk is a newer building. I don't have many on Falk. I have one unit on Falk that needs a pinhole replaced, or welded, I'm sorry. And then we'll coat that, because when they put those units on there, they didn't coat those cools, which doesn't make sense to me. But as I repair that, and I repair the units on Falk, we'll coat them, and we'll prolong those units, 5 to 10 years. But right now, it's the high school and AC Blunt that we're worried about.
Seems like they should have lasted a little bit longer at Falk.
That's,
We would have expected it anyway.
it all comes down to preventative maintenance.
Yeah.
And that's my goal here, is to prolong these units. I mean, they're not cheap. A 20-ton unit is almost $60,000.
Wow.
So,
That's expensive.
Say it has a pinhole leak.
yes, sir.
Can that be repaired with a, I don't know if you ever used them, but they have a valve that you can put on there, screw it into the pinhole, and then they have a little shut off for it.
Yeah, so the ones at Falk, they're popping where the cool is curving.
Where the curve
can't-
is.
Yeah, so you
So
can't
it's
put
kinda-
that valve in there. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to weld them shut, but if they're too far gone, it's just eating away.
It'll just keep eating further.
Yes, sir.
Correct.
But like I said, we're trying to prolong that, and we're trying to keep them clean, we're trying to keep the salt off of them. So it's a job, it should have been done years ago.
If you figure it out, let me know, 'cause I could use that on my cars. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
Down here in South Texas, so I know what you're talking about.
Any other board questions, comments?
No.
Well, I just want to take this opportunity to thank you and your staff, because I know that you're not only trying to maintain and repair, as you're also looking at the longevity of what we have and in developing the replacement plan so that we can build that into our budget. So thank you. We look forward to further details. Oh, I'm sorry. One more thought.
We were talking about the tilt walls. You talked about the air conditioning units, but the tilt walls at AC Blunt, are they, I think we had some deal a couple of years ago that there need to be some maintenance on those a couple of years ago, so.
We have was it 3-4 year, he's got the quote from back then. We thought we were gonna be able to send it back to the same company, and they try to update it. The people we dealt with are no longer there. He's spoken to, I guess I could let him tell you, but he's spoken to engineer. We're gonna have to get somebody to come out and go through the whole process again.
Okay.
To
the
tell
whole
us if there's
process
any
has to
damage.
be restarted,
Yeah.
as he's saying.
It's been a few years, so 2019. Okay.
It's right here, I can give this a blaze and you can share the old proposal.
So the tilt walls at Charlie Marshall, this school, are they in good shape, bad shape, or?
They're not in good shape. I'm working on that, trying to get somebody out here to
But
fix it.
Because we knew that they were kind of deteriorating over at AC
We've taken
Blunt.
care of some of that at Blunt. We did some masonry work on the well, the high school got, a few years ago, it got repaired and coated. And then at AC Blunt, some of the columns, the cinder block was cracking and so on, that was replaced. So we've started some of that, but it still needs some TLC. And then this campus has the true tilt walls. That's the cinder block, and then these are the tilt walls with the caulking and all that goes into it to maintain over the years. It just wasn't. So now we need to look at it.
So is it maintaining them or replacing them, or?
They come in and they come in and scrape out all the,
They'll take it all out.
Oh.
It's like you did at the high school, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so so,
And that's when preventative maintenance comes into play.
yeah.
So, I mean, that's my goal here, is to keep these buildings, old buildings, looking like, that's what you always wanna do, just.
Thank you. Thank you.
On the tilt walls, I recall before when we dug into this, we had ran into a little roadblock with, we wanted some structural analysis done on that lifespan so we knew how long we had and how much time we really needed to push the budget to get that done. But I remember vaguely that the structural analysis cost was pretty steep at that time. Are we still having that same issue, or have we found a company who's actually a little more inclusive, or to give us more information on that, or?
The Structural Integrity Group, I'm waiting, as it says in the notes, I'm waiting on a meeting with them. They're gonna be more willing to work with us than the James Construction Group.
Okay,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
a lot better.
Perfect. I remembered that was a roadblock, so I just wanted to make sure if we were going down the same route, or if this company had a little bit more to offer us than what we were getting
Yeah, the
before.
Structural Integrity Group, I actually worked with these people in Somerville. So they took really good care of Somerville, and I'm excited to bring them down here and work with us.
Awesome.
So this is something that's in progress right now, and once we actually have the experts out to visit our campuses, and so we can anticipate a future update presentation. Okay.
And hopefully by the end of September, we'll have everything that y'all need.
I think that whole overall is gonna include the stadium lights as well.
Okay.
So it'll be all three
A
of
more
those things.
comprehensive
Mhm.
while we have them here.
Yep.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Anything further, trustees? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Devon.
Thank you.
We're now at the portion of our meeting
We
for.
had the buses.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize for that. If we can, we have a replacement plan notes, if you would touch upon that, the school bus replacement plan, please.
Okay, so, district has 12 school buses. The last school bus
Thank you.
was purchased in 2017. The district will include $130,000 every year to replace one school bus every year, so that the district's oldest school bus will be 12 years old or less. For the 23-24 school year, the district would like to finance 3 buses to replace the 2003 buses and a 2004 bus. We would receive 3 new buses this year and finance them for 3 years to these buses. So these buses will be paid out with the estimated $130,000 budget.
Any questions?
They're very much in need, I know. 'Cause we've had several different times when the buses broke down with our students, and it's kind of tough. So we know we got to do something, yeah.
So after 3 years, we're gonna start a rotation. You can take the oldest bus so we just kind of rotate them out every year by a bus. I think that's what we talked about at the budget meeting, so.
At the end of 12 years, you got 12 brand-new buses.
Okay, so kind of keep them all running good.
That's what I was looking over. We have 2 buses over 20 years old. We have one 19 and one at 17 years old. So if I left my wife a car that was that old, I'd be out of the house. So, you know what I mean?
How yet? I'm trying to get y'all new buses.
That's what I'm looking at. I mean, this is, it should have been done quite a while back. If we have, and it's like they said, we have had calls where buses have stranded our students on occasion a few times, and we shouldn't have that. We shouldn't have other schools lending their buses to bring our kids home. You know, so I appreciate you looking at that, and that does need to be, you know, looked over and see what we need to do.
We're gonna make it happen.
That's what I was just gonna comment on. I appreciate you looking at it, but not only looking at it, you're beginning to do something about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Miss Chapa here, she's given me a pretty big hand, so
Yeah.
making it happen.
That's great.
This is not on the agenda, but I'd like to comment, just commend your maintenance guy, or your yard people on all the work they've done for starting school, because I think all our campuses look very, very appealing. The grass was cut, everything was nice and neat. So, you know, kudos to the maintenance folks for their hard work to make sure that happens for students come back to class today, that they're kind of a pleasing, you know, kind of a nice place to go back to. So send our congratulations to them. Kudos for a job well done.
Thank you.
And especially as hot as it's been.
Mhm.
We really owe them guys a lot of gratitude.
Absolutely. They make a team. I mean, we're out there getting it, and, you know, we do
It's
it.
hot.
We love to do it, and we love the kids, so that's what we're here for.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one question.
Question?
Sorry, one more. For the three buses that we are going to finance this year. Have we already gotten those new buses, or are we waiting on those buses?
So the first bus we could possibly get, if everything is good to go, we can get at the end of September.
Okay,
The other two buses will not be here until April.
okay.
But if we can get a move on it, Harry with Thomas Bus, he's been really good to me. And he's been trying to push buses our way. So hopefully we can get those other two sooner.
Nice.
We definitely need them.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Right before it gets really hot again.
Our AC's working every single bus. Costs a lot of money.
That's always good to know.
Well, this plan is certainly better than replacing them one by one or one a year. So thank you for the two of you working on this to come up with a plan that will enable the district to replace more of the fleet in a more timely manner. So thanks again.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. And now we're at the portion of our agenda for the superintendent's report. First item we have is the JET grant status update. Mr. Bennett?
Yes, ma'am. We have, Mr. Escada has put in your board book some numbers here, and he was going to come up and kind of go over those numbers with you. He works, gets those numbers and make sure all the equipment is coming in and submits the paperwork for those.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So for healthcare, we have, besides the electrical, we have everything in. It's just basically, once the electrical is done in the shop and we're continuing to work on the healthcare shop, I mean, I think we'll have all the equipment stations up and running probably within the next 3 weeks. And that was probably, I would say that would have been, we're on target for that. So I'm happy with how that's gone. Next with welding, those are, I mean, we kind of, I'm not gonna say we didn't expect a lot of this to go. I mean, this has kind of gone as planned as well. Welding booths, we were hoped that they were in, but it's due to shipping and delivery. That should be delivered and assembled by September. The exhaust system should be complete by the end of this month. The bandsaw, that should be in hopefully the end of this month or next month. Same thing with the H-frame press. But we've gotten a lot of our equipment in on both these packages. I'm hoping, and Jason might throw something at me, but we might hopefully have electrical up, hopefully by Halloween. Hopefully we can have a grand opening in November for the welding shop and healthcare shop. I would also like to add, we have received, we've been doing the reimbursement process. We have, through that process right now, we have received back $600,000. So through this time, through getting this equipment and then filling out the form, sending it back to TWC, we'll be getting back that other part of that money. So it's just a matter of getting it in, document it, and then email it to TWC. And then also, we did get our extension for both these grants, and that is to the end of December 31st, 2023. And as well as we should be, we have large enrollment amounts in both healthcare and in welding, so we will hit those numbers. We will be getting back our 10%.
So how's it impacting, this equipment like a welding booth and the other equipment in the healthcare? Is it impacting, we got students already in those classes and they're already doing that. We've already students enrolled in those classes with the expectation of having those. So how's it impacting that? Is there any impact on that? Are they able to do their classes? And
We have the health science group are both in. We have 2 classrooms set up in the cafeteria, and they're both in those. Welding are in the classroom. They're not going to be able to get into the welding shop itself right now. I don't know if we can. we'll probably have to check with the McWaters, the electrical, and see if there's a safe way if they were to come in one side and maybe go to the back booths, but we hadn't got to that yet because we're still, I think we have the slide with the construction update.
But aren't the students doing other things like training and
Oh, yes.
learning before they don't jump right into the welding booth? So
Right, the welders,
we
they
still,
go
we
through
still
a
have time.
safety protocol and all that before they ever go out there, and they were in there today, you know, going over their lessons. So yeah, they're still working in the program. They're just maybe not getting into the lab itself just yet.
Okay.
I know.
The overhead in the lab itself is still being worked on, so that probably about 2 weeks to finish with the overhead, and then kids should be able to be safely come in.
We can start, you know, they can start making their way back to the welding booths that are already in place. Just have to get, that's pretty high ceiling that they're working on with some of that, so we're not gonna let kids in there just yet, but we're working on it. And these are some of the same information that we had last time as to where we are. If you look, the top picture there, that's Mr. Divins' wife, and I believe you had someone come in to help him, but they painted that AP on the floor in there and have it coated where it looks really nice, and kids come in and
Looks good from the picture.
yeah, it looks really good when you're there. And then the second picture, you can see the fans. Last time we presented this, they had the holes cut for them, but now they have the fans in there, and those are on both sides to exhaust. That'll be the exhaust system. Then we just have a couple pictures you could see. That now the bottom two right, where you see the framed walls, they actually have one side of the walls. We have some beadboard paneling where it's, you know, it closes off the actual room. It's early stages, but they're making it right now. They have classes in there, and then you can see the pad has been poured for the transformer, and Mr. Divins in constant contact with AEP, and they're looking for one, or they have one, I believe, that was supposed to go into a construction job down in the valley, and it wasn't needed, so it came up this way, and I think they're
Good.
just that's all in the process of getting put in there. And that's pretty much where we are on the construction. It's going on daily.
So for our viewing public, these improvements at our Keyburger campus, our team is implementing them as we receive the shipments. And so even though school year has begun, the students that are enrolled in these programs are still being served with curriculum and training. And while these physical improvements to the facilities are underway. And so we thank you for incorporating these, even though we're in the middle of school year. Would have been nice to get all of the equipment in the summer, but that just didn't happen. So we appreciate you moving forward and working out a plan so that our students still receive some curriculum. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Next, we have a presentation on our student and employee handbooks. Mr. Bennett?
Okay, we get these every year during the summer from TASB with annotated editions that we go in and put our information in where it belongs, the names of the different people involved, and just really you make it your own, but most of it comes to us prepared. Both of these are treated the same way, and these are here for your information if you have any questions on them.
Trustees, any questions or comments on the student handbook or the employee handbook?
Let me see. I have some notes, and I will send those via email.
Okay. Thank you.
Some of it's grammar, verbiage, not really any kind of a real issue that I feel like needs to be on the mic, but just so you can expect an email.
Okay.
And then I did have in the employee handbook, I had sorry, hold on one second. I'm reading all my notes. Two questions for additional information, kind of. There was the mention of the advisory committees on page 19 of the employee handbook. And I just wanted to see if we could get some more information on our current advisory committees, who that consists of, and what their roles are for what they're doing inside of their groups, what they're recommending, just some update on that. And then I also wanted to request, sorry. Some more information. There's several mentions, for example, on page 20, just through the FMLA and those different paid leave categories about the board rate that we established versus like when you pay a substitute by the current market rate versus the board agreed rate. So I just wanted more information because we haven't updated or discussed a rate in a while, so I just wanted to see if we could get some more detail of how that rate works. That's all.
Okay. We'll get it.
Thank you.
Trustees, any other questions or comments on either handbook? Okay. Next item is for our information is the calendar of upcoming events. And also we have our seasonal sports, football and volleyball schedules. Did anyone have any questions on those?
Did want to let you know that
Yes,
Wednesday they are doing the Meet the Panthers. It didn't make it on here. It's at 6:30 at the stadium. That's this Wednesday.
So not only us, but we encourage our Panther Nation, our community, to come out and meet our Panthers for the upcoming school year. Again, this Wednesday, the 16th at 6:30 at the football stadium.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Anything else?
No. You have the schedules as you mentioned.
Okay. We're now moving into our financial reports. And we'll turn it over to our Director of Business and Finance, Ms. Chop.
For the financial reports, the first report that we have is the accounts payable report. Our cash on hand as of July 31st is $3,512,000. And our payments for the month of July were $829,000. The reason that is high is, as you heard from our jet presenter, we are spending the money and getting reimbursement. So $535,000 of that money was due to the jet grant. As far as budget, still within our budget, still within our function spendings. Total estimated revenue coming in is $17,084,000. Total expense as of July is $15,531,000. And then we have our tax collection report. In the past board meeting, we did not bring to you the July report. Now we have the July report, where tax collectors in all the three counties collected $92,682 for the month of June. For the current taxes and for the delinquent taxes, they collected $20,734,000. That is at 94% collection rate. Then you also have a July report from our tax collectors, where we collected for the month of July $100,947,000 of current taxes and $19,303,000 of delinquent taxes. So now at the end of July we're at 95%. tax collections. FEMA projects, we don't have any updates for this month. That is a project that we're going to bring the prior business manager to come assist. These are projects back from 2017. So she's going to come back and help us on contracted services to be able to help with this FEMA projects. Go back to the data back in 2017 to get those reimbursements in.
If I may, just to elaborate on that, it's important that we get this right because there has been a little bit of back and forth and on the details and the data and how it's had to be presented. And Mrs. Stansbury was part of a team that was working to reconcile a lot of that. And so she's most familiar with that. And we do have a window that we have to wait because of her retirement. So just because there's not an update doesn't mean that it's less important or anything of that nature. We just need to be able to get back to that data. And so if you will, please continue with the ESSER funds.
Sure. On the ESSER funds, total expended to date is being reported. We spent, in the month of June, we spent $16,000. In the month of July, we spent $28,585. For the ESSER reports, our balance closing out the year, we'll probably have about $52,000 of monies to carry forward for the new year. That's still monies that are going to be budgeted to close the achievement gap as required by the ESSER 3 funds. That's all I have for financial reports if there's any questions.
Trustees?
Oh, I'm sorry, I have one more item. I have update for the next year, 2023-24 budget. After our last board meeting that we had on our budget workshop, we mentioned a tax rate, a local tax rate, to be at 0.6692. A couple of days later, TEA set out an announcement saying, Aransas Pass, that the minimum MCR rate that the district can adopt would be 0.6723. That is 0.0031 more of an increase in the tax rate. That's like 1/3 of a cent more. What the good news is that half of 1/3 of a penny increase will bring in $97,401 more in local and state revenues. How that will be budgeted would be going back to Senate Bill 2 and all the requirements for school safety. We looked at the requirements and we're putting the $61,581, which we received from the state allotment. Athletics, $20,687. That was per the recommendation of the athletic director, and that amount will still be looked at for the following year when we go into the fall and spring sports to see the participation in those sports to see if we need to increase those amounts. But for now, there is an increase of $20,687 with these monies. We did look at the teacher substitute, bringing it up. We provided a pay sheet in there, bringing it up $10 more per day. And we also looked at the UIO academics, where we were paying $100 per event. Now it's going to be stated at $200 per event. Which would be at the same tutorial rate of $25 per hour. The UIO coordinator will be from $250 to $500. And that is where the $97,401 will be budgeted, the additional funds. Also, with the update is a notice of public meeting to discuss the budget and proposed tax rate that, if approved, if we could have that on August 28th. And that is the notice that will be put in the newspaper this coming Wednesday. So that we let our taxpayers know our current tax rate and how the tax rate is dropping from last year to this year with a compressed rate and the homestead exemption. That's all I have. If there's any questions.
Are there any questions on the monthly financials? Any questions on the budget and tax rate update?
On the update, on the proposed expenses, some of this I know is covered in the supplemental docs that we have here. But on the athletics, what exactly was the increase for there?
Student meals.
Student meals? Okay.
Trustees, any other questions on the budget update, tax rate information, additional funds that are available, additional expenditures to be utilized since we have a little bit more money? The substitute pay, basically, that's every type of substitute that we have. The daily rate goes up. And then our UIL academic costs for event coaches and the staff that assist our students in the UIL academic events. Those are basically doubling. I understand it's been a while since we've made an adjustment on these, correct?
It's been quite a while.
Okay.
And the sub pay, we're trying to get where we can have subs to stay competitive with the area around here. So both of those needed the attention, and with this added funds, we're able to address them.
Okay.
And to be back on my horse of questions, the substitute pay here, this rate is the rate referred to in the employee handbook?
I would have to check on that.
Okay.
We haven't put this in place yet.
Right. I just wanted to, I just know in the handbook it said that we would approve that rate, and since this is a part of the budget that we will approve, I'm just trying to make it make sense for me. Miss Chapa, I might need to come visit you.
All right, then, trustees, if there are no further questions on the monthly financials or the budget update and the tax rate update, we'll move on to our consent agenda. And before we go to the next item, just a disclosure, I will now turn over presiding this item to our vice president, just to avoid perception of conflict of work interest.
Okay, again, first thing on the consent agenda is the resolution to extracurricular status San Patricio 4-H, Mr. Bennett.
Okay, there's two items here that both deal with 4-H, and the one, the adjunct faculty allows students to participate, and then the resolution to recognize it as an extracurricular activity is the second consent item. Both of them dealing with 4-H, which, like I said, is basically one of them allows us to have it, and the other one allows us to have it as an extracurricular activity.
Again, this is just a standard like we do every year, that we have an agreement with these folks and that. So, and The next, does anybody have any questions on either one of those agreements on the Ag Life San Patricia or San Patricia 4-H? Any questions on those before we move on? Okay, next is the minutes for the special meeting of 7/19/23. Anybody have any corrections or comments on those minutes? Next is the minutes of special board meeting workshop of 8/2/23. Anybody have any comments or corrections on those? And last is the regular meeting 7/10/23. 23. Does anybody have any comments or questions on those two? Okay, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda items?
So,
Motion made by Mr. Rector. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Hill. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Ayes, got it. Next, moving on to next item on the agenda. I'll turn it back over to Mrs. Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Mullinex. At this point of our agenda, we have an action item. And this is to consider and approve a request to prepare a resolution to maintain the INS debt tax rate. Ms. Chapa?
Yes, we did this last year, and in order to maintain the same INS tax rate at 0.13, we're looking at putting a defeasance payment to pay principal, save our taxpayers interest on paying down this bond, the 2016 bond. So we're looking at paying down $793,706 of principal on an estimate. We've talked to our financial advisor, Dusty Trailer, and he's on board. And if we're allowed to go forward with this, if we could adopt this resolution, we'll have that paperwork from the attorneys drawn up for our next board meeting to be able to have the defeasance payment again for next year.
Trustees, any questions? Comments? We did this last year to help our district move forward and to be in a better position. Financially, there were talks of bonds and bond program, and how do we get ready to be in a better position financially? So this is one of the measures we took last year, and so we would just be continuing it this year, and our advisor says that we're in a position to do so. All right. Do we have a motion to grant permission for staff to move forward in preparing a resolution to maintain the INS debt tax rate to allow the ISD to make an additional principal payment?
So moved.
We have a motion by Mr. Stansberry, second by Mr. Rector. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. The motion passes. Next item is to consider and approve voting a delegate and alternate delegate from our district for the 2023 TASB Delegate Assembly. And the Delegate Assembly will be held on Saturday, September 30th of this year in Dallas, Texas. At this point, I now open the floor for nominations of a trustee to serve as the district's voting delegate at the TASB Delegate Assembly. The floor is now open for nominations.
Yeah.
From what I understand, there's only 3 going, correct? And 2 of the 3's would have to do it, and I'm not going to do it.
So we have one who will not accept a nomination.
well, I'm not going either.
I think we only have two going.
Well, I'll let you know I'm going. I was the alternate.
I'm doing February, I think.
Galveston.
This one is TASB, the
That's in
conference
Dallas.
in Dallas, and at that same time, they have the delegate assembly. The one in the spring is the,
Go.
Oh, you
Winter
going,
governance.
I thought
Governance.
John was going. You're not going? You're not going?
The one in Dallas? No.
Okay.
No, I'm gonna go to the one in Galveston.
We waiting for the beach to open up.
waiting for the beach. Okay. Well, I'll self-nominate myself then, since
I make a motion, we approve Ms. Butler to be the delegate.
I'll second that motion.
I'll be
So
your
we have a
back-
motion
I'll
and
be
a
your
second.
backup.
Yeah, well,
I'll be your backup.
You be the alternate. Give her your alternate, so.
okay, so we have a
So that you
motion
have
and
it
a
on paper.
second to, for the voting delegate to be myself. Do we have a motion for Mr. Stansberry to be the alternate?
I make a motion, Mr. Stansbury be our alternate.
I second it.
Okay. All right, so we'll vote on the voting delegate. All in favor for me to serve as our district's voting delegate at the 2023 TASB Delegate Assembly, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay. That carries. The next is for our alternate. Do we have a motion for Mr. Stansberry to be our alternate delegate at the same assembly?
Motion
Make a
been
motion.
made.
I'm sorry. Motion is made. It was second. I apologize. All in favor of Mr. Stansberry being our alternate delegate, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. All right, then. Well, thank you, Mr. Stansberry. Next item, consider and approve designation of 10 non-business days in compliance with HB 3033 and the Public Information Act regarding public information requests. This is something that our district needs to do, Mr. Bennett?
Yes, ma'am. House Bill 3033, in the past, for public information, you know, if a school was closed for whatever reason, those days didn't count toward your 10 days. Now they specified that you have to name 10 non-business days, and those are those are the ones you have to use. Those are maximum. So what we're recommending tonight would be December 18th through the 22nd, December 26th through the 29th of 2023, then January 2nd of 2025, basically over the Christmas break.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, it sure is. January 2nd, 2024. She's jumping
Yeah.
ahead a year.
We're gonna go skip a year, right?
All right. But those are the days we recommend to name as our non-business days, where it would not count toward our 10 days to gather information from a public information request.
And these are days that are already marked off on the district's
Now,
ISD's
we've
calendar.
added those and put them in the, I think you added them in the
They're on the
legend.
they're on the
Yes.
calendar, I think, right?
Added in the legend, so.
Any comments or questions, trustees? Do we have a motion to consider and approve designation of these 10 non-business days of December 18th through the 22nd, 2023, December 26th through 29th, 2023, and January 2nd, 2024?
Make a
So moved.
motion.
Motion by Mr. Stansbury,
Take it.
second by Mr. Flores. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. Motion carries. Next item of business, consider and approve the memorandum of understanding between Aransas Pass ISD and Engagement to Employment Partners, referred to as E2E. Mr. Bennett?
Yes, ma'am. This is an agreement, MOU between us and E2E in relation to the post-secondary success program. Increase the number of students enrolling and succeeding in post-secondary education, like college, vocational training, apprenticeships, and military service. And it allows us to have a dedicated advisor on our high school campus in a Miss Alita Helgerman, who does an outstanding job to see that our students are signed up for FAFSA and the TSI and all those components that go with post-secondary success.
Trustees, do you have any questions or comments regarding the enclosed memorandum of understanding between APISD and E2E? Is this the advisor's second year, Mr. Bennett?
I believe it is. Is there a second? It is her second year,
Her second year with us?
and she does a great job with those kids.
If there are no questions or comments, do we have a motion to approve the MOU between APISD and Engagement to Employment Partners?
Make a motion.
Moved by Mr. Flores. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Mullinex. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion carries. Next item is another MOU. This is a memorandum of understanding between Aransas Pass ISD and Amistad Community Health Center. Mr. Bennett?
Yes, Mr. Escada will come up if you have any questions on it, but basically it is one of the requirements of our P-TECH program that we have this memorandum of understanding with a health care center, and we are recommending to present this one to approve the memorandum with Amistad Community Health Center.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Mr. Bennett, I think pretty much said.
Okay, okay.
I think, my question, that's for our health science students to be able to go for like the on-job training type stuff inside of an actual doctor's office, or we don't have a hospital here anymore, so that we've got them so they can complete that requirement so maybe they can get a CNA out of it.
Yes, sir. We will be progressively, this actually just was more pen to paper of them coming to work with our students. We'll start out freshman year, and then throughout the years, hopefully doing that job shadowing, then going into the clinics or the hospital to do that. They are Dr. Baggerman from Amistad are excited to do this, the partnership we've had for the last couple of years, and just to see our growth with our healthcare facility, and to see what we're doing with the healthcare academy. Putting more pen to paper and doing those work-based learning opportunities, apprentice types. By doing this MOU, this helps us build that.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, trustees? If not, do we have a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding between Aransas Pass ISD and Amistad Community Health Center?
So
Motion made.
moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Hill, second by Mr. Mullinex. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion carries. Next, we have consider and approve the contract for property value study appeal services for the years 2020, 2021, and 2022 with Linebarger, Gogan, Blair, and Sampson LLP. Ms. Chapa?
Yes, for this item, if y'all are aware, working with Linebarger, Grogan, Blair, and Sampson, they are our tax collectors, our delinquent tax collectors for the school district. And they also provide a service to where they can appeal our state controller's property values. And one of the reasons why we would want to do this is because we collect taxes based on the local appraisal values. And we get a tax amount, a taxable base. And how I presented to you, we're collecting at right now about 95%. The state gives us the funding, TEA gives us the funding based on state controller values. If the state controller values are higher than our local values, and once we input what our tax collections are into the state system, our 95% tax collection rates makes it seem like it's like 93, 92% instead of lower, not making a tax effort. If the values are higher on the state side, we lose funding. So what Linebarger does, they they appeal the state values to be aligned with the local values so that we don't lose any funding from the state. And this appeal service is going back, they could go back to the year 2020, 2021, 2022. Possibly there's funding that we can bring from TEA, and the way they get paid is if there is funding that we left on the table from TEA, they collect 10%. If there is no funding for the district, if the values are aligned, then there's no funding, then they don't get paid anything. So it's a win-win situation. As for the next agenda item, it's for the current year and moving forward. And we bring this to you because the values have been at the appraisal district. They've been up and down, and still many of these values being protested. The homestead exemption going into play. That way we have somebody looking at our state values and our local values to make sure that we're not losing any state funding.
So again, if we enter into this contract for these services, the district does not have an expense upfront. The contractor gets paid based off a percentage of what they are able to realize for the district, which is going to be at 10%. Okay, and if there's nothing for any particular year, then the district does not have an expense. Okay. All right, questions, comments, trustees?
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
The next item is, this is for 20, 21, and 22 to go back for them to look. The next item is for approving 23 and going forward. Can't we combine these into one motion since it's the same thing?
Ms. Chapa?
The reason why it's separated is they sent two different contracts. So in order to get both of them approved, it got listed as two agenda items. There's two different contracts that Lineberger sent over.
Well, that don't sound very,
So right now, we are discussing potential contract with this LP to look at our past years. Any other questions or comments? Do we have a motion to approve the contract for property value study and appeal services for the years 2020, 2021, and 2022 with Lineberger, Gogan, Blair, and Sampson LLP?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion by Mr. Rector. Do we have a second?
second.
Second by Mr. Flores
And John.
and Stansberry.
Whatever, 30, 40.
Any
whatever.
further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The motion carries. Next item, similar. It is the consideration and for approval of a contract with the same professional services of Lineberger, Gogan, Blair, Sampson LLP for property value study appeal services for the year 2023 and each succeeding year thereafter. I believe Ms. Chapa has already given us a summary of what is in our packet. Are there any board questions or comments regarding this contract, which would be for the year 2023 and each subsequent year? If there are no questions or trustee comments, do we have a motion to approve a contract for property value study appeal services for the year 2023 and each succeeding year thereafter with Lineberger, Gogan, Blair, and Sampson?
So move.
Motion by Ms. Hill. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Mullinax. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. Motion carries. Next on our agenda is consider and approve the proposal for H&S doors for the purchase of egress doors and gates to be installed district-wide as part of the school facility safety standards. Mr. Bennett.
Right. We, Mr. Diven has walked the district with a representative from H&H Doors, H&S Doors, and they have checked mullion, the hardware, door frame. If it's on the exterior doors, they've checked it. And we are also, which is part of the requirement from the state, that all doors function correctly at all times, which you have to be able to push the egress bar, go out, and when it shuts, it locks without any, teachers, right now we have some that they may have to make sure they shut. So this case, this would take care of all that, as well as you have to have certain gates that if it's a means of egress from a hazard going on in the campus or in that general area, students and staff have to be able to use a push bar, egress bar on a gate to exit. They've gone around and found all the gates that we need to have egress bars put on, all the doors that need any kind of attention, and we're bringing the proposal to go to them to have them do this work, and it's for $123,583.46, and they are part of the Region 2 Goodbye Purchasing Co-op. Since we're part of that, we can go to them without going through the RFP process. So we're bringing this to you tonight for your approval so we can get the ball rolling on this project.
Trustee, questions, comments?
I got a question. Is this two different companies?
No,
You was talking about H&S doors, and you even said H&S doors.
it's H&H, isn't it?
H&H, I'll say the
I was
letter.
just checking. Yes, sir, there's a typo.
letter- yeah, but
The
the
proposal
letterhead-
is from H&H
H&H.
Door.
Yeah, the letterhead
Company
H&H, I just,
out of
'cause there is
Victoria.
an H&S company out there.
Okay, this one is H&H Door Company. That is part of Goodbye. Any other trustee comments or questions? If not, do we have a motion to approve the proposal from H&H Doors for the purchase of egress doors and gates to be installed district-wide as part of the school facility safety standards?
Make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Stansberry, motion by Mr. Mullinax. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Flores. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. Motion carries.
Well, we're in discussion about the gates and that. I want to ask, why is that gate on the south side always open through the whole weekend?
Which one, the one that goes to,
The one that goes like facing those apartments?
because they jump the fence if it's closed, and they tear up the fence.
So that's just, we put a fence up so people don't be coming in and out. I walked over here the other day and seen some people walking through there. And I was just wondering, why is it always open? I've seen it on Saturday, and I've also seen it on Sundays. It's open.
Yeah, we can close it on Saturdays and Sundays, but they're jumping it, and they're tearing up the top of the fence, and they're gonna get in there no matter what. So I'm just leaving it open and having any damage to the fence.
So we are at topics for future meetings, discussion. If that is something you'd like for staff to look at some other options and bring back to us.
Put signs or do something to keep people out, we have to start doing.
If you could provide us an update,
We will.
Mr. Bennett.
Signs for
Do we have any cameras set up over there?
Not out there.
Across the housing addition over there.
Ain't no Wi-Fi gonna reach that far.
Seen some
So-
young kids come in the other day, and I told them they couldn't be bringing their bikes in here. I did stop them and tell them, you can't be riding your bikes all over our fields and stuff.
Yeah, so what, I mean, we've actually caught them on camera throwing their bikes over and then crawling over the fence.
Yeah, well, we need to do something to stop that. There's a purpose that we paid a lot of money for the fencing to keep people out. So we'd like to find a way to stop it.
Thank you, Mr. Flores. Our topics for future meetings. We do have date for special meeting to approve budget and tax rate. This would be for the 2023-2024 school year budget to be held on August 28th at 6:30. Anything further, Mr. Bennett?
No, that's what it is.
And we also have, as Ms. Chopper referenced earlier, the notice for the public meeting to discuss the budget and proposed tax rate, which would be published in the newspaper on Wednesday? This Wednesday, okay. Any comments or questions about that, trustees? Any other topics for future meetings? Okay. At this point of our agenda, the board will convene an executive session as authorized by the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code 551.001, concerning any and all purposes permitted by the act. The time now is 8:36. I'm sorry? Oh, okay, read it all, okay. Let me start over then. Convene an executive session as authorized by the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code 551.001, concerning any and all purposes permitted by the act, Section 551.074 personnel, information, new hires, resignation, Sections 551.076, 551.076 and 551.089 deliberations regarding security services or security audits. Section 551.074 personnel, superintendent search discussion with firm consultation, pay group equity, acting superintendent criteria evaluation tool. In addition, 551.074, is that just repeated on there?
Let's just repeat it.
Okay,
Yeah, just give it time to go out.
all right. So it's on there twice, but, okay. So now it is 8:37 p.m. We'll now convene an executive session. We're now reconvening from closed session into open session to act on any items requiring action from the closed session. It is now 10:42 p.m. First, we have consider and approve resignation.
I move to approve the resignation as discussed in executive session.
Seconded.
Motion by Ms. Hill, second by Mr. Flores. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. The motion carries. Next item, consider and approve RFP to solicit contract for armed security personnel. Do we have a motion to approve the RFP?
So moved.
Approve the RFP to solicit contract for armed security personnel.
We have a motion by Mr. Mullinax. Do we have a second?
Stansberry.
Oh, I'm sorry, second by Mr. Stansberry. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Next item is consider and approve resolution to declare a good cause exception for House Bill 3 Armed Security Officer requirement. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Stansberry, second by Mr. Rector. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion carries. Next item, consider and approve final budget amendment with pay group equity for the 2022 to 2023 school year. Do we have a motion to approve this budget amendment?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Rector. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Mullinax. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. The motion carries. As there is no further business this evening, we will now adjourn. The time is 10:44 p.m.